Alright everybody, welcome back to another video. Today's just a quick video. I'm going to be covering this Denali snow plow system that I installed on my Pioneer 700. Alright, so now that I've bought a plow, hopefully I won't need it. But the squirrels are telling me otherwise so far this year. So I had a plow for my four-wheeler and I wanted to get a little bit of an upgrade and put one on the Pioneer 700 because if you've watched my previous Pioneer 700 videos, you've seen that I have installed an in-cab heat system. And now, this year, I also have a set of the soft upper doors to go with it, so I can keep the heat inside for the most part. And the last piece of the puzzle was installing this plow here. This is not an install video. I'm just going to kind of cover the plow and tell you why I chose this system. So there's multiple systems out there available. Most of them have a manual type action to actuate the blade. Probably the cheapest system you can find is just something that uses the winch like this to raise and lower it and the manual blade adjustment. And then it goes all the way up to, you can find a fully hydraulic setup if you want to spend like crazy amounts of money on a plow. And somewhere kind of right in the middle, well, upper end but middle, is this system here. So this is a 72-inch, they call it the DOT blade. You can see it's kind of angled like this, so it's supposed to throw snow off to the side better. It has the markers on it, this interchangeable steel wear blade. It's also, the whole plow itself is made of steel. It's got this rubber flap. You can get this in just the manual setup, or like I did with what they call hydro turn. So I was going to build something like this myself using an actuator, but no need to reinvent the wheel. Probably would have cost me almost as much money to come up with the system myself. So this is the Denali hydro turn setup. It was back ordered for about 4 weeks, but I went back and forth, which I believe is the owner of the company, on eBay, and he was really helpful and really nice, and I did pay full price for this whole setup here, but I thought it was worth kind of showing you the setup in case you're interested. There's really not a whole lot out there about this system. So the one thing I thought was kind of interesting is they said that this Denali plow would not work with some of the other winch mount setups like I have, and it works fine. So there's no clearance. You get the mount, which mounts to the frame. You can see a couple bolts there, and then there's some square tube that goes over the frame rail back there. Then you've got your push tube that comes down, which is then modified for the hydro turn setup. Normally there'd be like a manual lever within a spring in this area here to actuate the different steps. In this case, it's replaced with this hydraulic electric actuator. So it runs up, it's got a plug, you can see, so you can disconnect it when you disconnect it from the frame. I am using just a winch with a regular cable. You've got two different points that you can connect your winch cable if you want. Alright, so let's get to the guts of the system. So, look under the hood here. I've pretty much maxed out the usable space under the hood in my Pioneer 700. Obviously, this is the heater that I installed, which runs off of the coolant. Over here is the actuator for the winch. And then over here is the actuator for the hydro turn. So I basically have these large gauge cables coming from the battery. If you watch my other video, see how I did that. And then they run down to the winch, and then I just come right off of the power feed, and then it runs over here to the hydro turn system. I used the cable that they included and just cut it to length. It's basically uses a winch style positive feed to actuate the actuator back and forth. I fuse protected the control line on both sides. So there's kind of how that looks. And then the output runs down along the frame here, and as you can see, there's this little plug that disconnects right there. So all of that stuff up front is fed by this system here. If you didn't watch my remote mount battery setup, be sure to watch that. I showed you how I remote mounted the battery over here on the other side. So then right here, this is a 100 amp fused disconnect right here. And that's what sends power to the front for the winch and the actuator. So that comes through here. So these are nice because you can use it as a disconnect, and it's also a safety device in case you overload the winch. If I pull over 100 amps, I definitely want it to stop. So now for the controls, we're in the cab. So here's the controls I made. So I've got my winch up and down, and then the actuator left and right, or the hydro turn system. It did not come with a switch. It came with like a handlebar mount type switch. I thought I told them to include this switch, but apparently there was a miscommunication there. So I think you can get it with a switch like this. So I just bought one. I also have my remote winch connection right here, so I could plug this in, and then I could sit up here a little bit further, control the up and down. You just can't do it left and right. With that, honestly, the left and right, usually once you get it set, you're good to go. All right, so you can see I got the winch. Bring it up. Go left, my hydro turn. I can go right. All right, so let me know what you think in the comments. Like I said, the system overall, it was almost $1,500 for the whole setup, and that includes pretty much everything except the winch. But everyone can choose kind of like what winch they want. I went with a super winch, 4,000 pound rating, so should be good enough for mainly plowing, which is what I'm doing. I'm not really using it to pull this whole setup out of the woods or anything like that, but I could if I had to. So there it is. I'll be sure to do an update if and when we get our first snow this year, but it's just now the beginning of fall, so hopefully we have a little while to go. But now's the time to be thinking about this winter before it's too late. So if you have any questions, comments, be sure to leave them below. I'll leave links in the description like I always do to the products that I showed you here. Again, I paid full price for this. I just wanted to kind of give you an option for you Pioneer 700 owners out there. If you have a Pioneer 1000, it's a very similar setup. The electronics are just going to be a little bit different, but the plow and everything else is almost identical. Just a slightly different mount plate. All right, until next time, we'll see you later.